Welcome back, everyone. My name is Brady. This is Be All In Sports. Here we are once again to break down another upcoming fight night. This one featuring Jared Cannonier taking on Gregory Rodrigues. Should be a banger of a card. If you're looking for any of my old content or the fight breakdown and recap from the last fight, I put that on the end of the breakdown that I had before. So go check that out if you're still interested in hearing how we did there. It wasn't a terrible night. The bets were decent. Not a lot of things to talk about. We did once again have I think it's 7-5 is where we went last week. So not great, but we'll get better. And this week it starts again. So we are at the UFC Apex. We're, like I said, have a pretty good fight card. We got Gregory Rodrigues taking on Jared Cannonier. This is going to be a fight with implications in the middleweight division. So we're going to see how this one plays out and see. Obviously, Jared Cannonier is probably in the later stages of his career, and Gregory Rodrigues, even though he looks a little older, he is fairly young still, so has some time to still work his way up. So we'll see how we go with that one. But enough talk. If you have not already, please hit the like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments section if you're agreeing with my picks or some of your own, where you're going this weekend, what you think. But we are going to get right into breaking down this card. And I will tell you, I'm not positive on the order if this is going to be correct right now, and going to continue as the correct order. So we're going to break down all the fights. We have had a cancellation already in the Jared Gordon and Kyle Fernandez fight, so we won't be breaking that one down, but that would have been a fun one to break. I did have that underdog on the value there, so we'll see how this next card turns out, but we'll get right into it. Like I said, if you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe, but let's get into the UFC Fight Night, Cannonier versus Rodrigues. Up, we have Julia Avila taking on Jacqueline Cavalcante. Avila comes in at 9-3. She's won 3 out of her last 5. Cavalcanti comes in at she's 8-1. She's won all 3 of her UFC matches so far. This breaks down. First off, there is an age difference here. Obviously, Avila's been in the UFC longer. She's fought, I would say, higher level competition, but in this case, she also has not been in the octagon for over a year. And when I break down women's fights in particular, I do look at that. That definitely plays a heavy factor as far as me picking women's fights. It just seems like the fighter that is the more active fighter in most cases. I'll talk about this, how this changes coming up a little bit later. But while I do like the activity, I don't like a long layoff and a little bit over a year when you're not fighting regularly. I think it's going to have consequences. Cavalcanti, on the other hand, she's a very active striker, uses her leg kicks. She keeps good distance. She's constantly moving. And I think that movement is going to be a problem for Avila, who likes to come forward. She likes to pressure, kind of put it all on the line, so to speak. And it doesn't always work out her way. I don't see this being a matchup that goes to the ground unless Avila is the one that's going to take it there, because Cavalcanti she's her defense, as far as her takedown defense is good. It's solid. And she doesn't go for a lot of takedowns. That's not really her game. Her game is more stay on the outside, constantly move around the outside of the octagon, whether even if you're pressured. That's why I don't think the pressure is going to get to her. And I don't think that this matchup is going to be something that is going to be difficult for her. So due to the age difference here, and just the activity level, which Cavalcanti obviously has had more activity. And Avila, on the other hand, kind of that long layoff, and I just don't like the long layoff. And I think Cavalcanti is going to have enough for. I do see this fight going to decision, so my pick in this is going to be Cavalcanti by decision. We'll move on to the next. All right, this next matchup is featuring Dante O'Mays taking on Walter Walker. Dante O'Mays is obviously the more experienced UFC vet here. This is going to be his 3rd trip to the octagon. He is the brother of Johnny Walker, although totally opposite fighting styles. Walker is more of that wrestling type, likes to get it to the ground, has heavy ground and pound, has good submissions. I believe that his camps are mainly out of the Dagestan area. So if that tells you anything where he's fighting in, I think he's connected to the like Russian wrestling realm there. Dante O'Mays, on the other hand, he's a decent striker, has decent takedown defense, but he just doesn't win a lot of fights, plain and simple. He always it doesn't seem like he's doing a lot of damage, and the further we get into his career, it seems like his output may still be there, but it's the power is missing for some reason. It doesn't seem like he's got a lot on his shots. I think this is going to be a matchup that Walker is either going to implement his takedown or his ground game a little bit more, get it to the ground, and I in my mind, I see him being able to get it to the ground just by volume alone. He attempts a lot of takedowns, and I think as the fight goes on, Don'Tale Mayes isn't going to be able to hit him hard enough to keep him off. So for that reason and the youth reason, and the more I think he's more motivated. I never get the feeling that Mayes is really motivated. His career is not going anywhere in the UFC. He's not working towards a title, nothing like that. I think Walker is going to be the more motivated fighter. You still have those aspirations for the title, and I think that's going to play a big thing into it. Mindset has a lot to do with fighting. So I am going to side with Walker in this one. I think he gets it done by ground and pound, probably in the second round is what I'm going to say. But I think, he's going to be taking it a little bit more serious. Not that Mayes isn't. I just don't think the motivation is necessarily there to be all there can be in the UFC at this point in his career. And I think Walker's going to get this one done. So my pick is Walker by ground and pound, round 2 in this one. We'll move on to the next. Next up, Vince Morales taking on Elijah Smith. Elijah Smith is the newcomer that just came off the Contender Series fight where he was able to get that decision win over Aaron Tua, which, if you remember him, he was the guy that has the tattooed face. He's a pretty tough fighter. That was a tough fight. It was no easy walkover fight, even though Tua did come in on short notice. I thought Smith would probably be able to kind of walk through him just because of the absolute short notice, but Tua was a dog in that one. That is one thing that I definitely remember about that. On the other hand, you have Vince Morales. He's 16-8. He did have a earlier stint in the UFC, and then wasn't so successful there. Had a couple tough matches, and then he left the UFC. Went on a regional spree where he did have some pretty dominant wins there, and then now he's back in the UFC where he did his last fight was a decision loss to Taylor Lapilus. So Lapilus is not a bad fighter by any means, so that's not necessarily the end all be all. It did get him back in the UFC. I believe he did take that fight on short notice, so that does put it up there just a little bit higher. We have him taking on Elijah Smith, the newcomer, 7-1. He's been fighting on the regional scene. Like I said, he did have his last contender match where he won. That was a tough fight. And here's the way I see this going. Morales does have good movement on the feet. He is a decently well-rounded fighter. It's just the thing that I notice about him is he doesn't seem to carry a lot of danger. I don't see him having the power or the knockout power or the ability to get this to the ground to threaten any type of submission whatsoever. And Elijah Smith, I think, he's going to be the faster, more aggressive fighter in this one. He likes to walk you down, strike to enter into the takedowns. And Vince Morales has shown that he can be taken down by decent wrestlers who attempt takedowns. And I think in this case, even though Smith is young, Morales, we do have an age gap there. It seems like we have an age gap with a lot of these fights this weekend. So you're talking about one of the lower weight classes. You're getting up there in age when you're 34, 35 years old, even though in some instances I would consider that your prime. Morales isn't too far past it, I wouldn't say, and I'd say he's probably right in it. But Elijah Smith, I just think, is going to be the more aggressive fighter, and I think he's going to obviously have that want a little bit more. So, and I think from what I remember, right, he's had a long wrestling career, a long stint where he's grown up wrestling, and I think it's the basis for his game now. So I got to side with the guy that I think is going to have more takedowns in this one. I think he's going to have more control time. I think this is another decision fight. I don't see Morales is pretty tough. He has been finished before, but he's not really that chinny of a guy. So I think he'll be able to fight off the damage from Smith, but I do see this going long, and I think Smith will end up getting it done by decision. So my pick is going to be Elijah Smith for this one. But we will go right on to the next one. We're breaking down this card pretty quick today. All right, next up we have Gabriel Bonfim taking on Chaos Williams. I think this is going to be a matchup that's going to be pretty good. This is going to be a welterweight matchup. Bonfim coming in 16-1, Williams 15-3. Both these guys are coming off wins in their last outings. Williams obviously came off that KO with Carlston Harris, and Ange Lusa was lost the unanimous decision to Bonfim in his last match. Bonfim did have before that loss to by KO to Nicholas Dalby. I'm going to give you a pass on that one. I think he came out pretty hyped by the crowd, and I think it was one of those situations he thought he could get him out of there quickly. And Nicholas Dalby is a very, very tough guy to get out of there and finish, and he just wasn't able to get it done. But I think he did show that he's very capable. I think he just gassed in that particular instance, and I don't think it's going to show further necessarily. I don't think it's going to be something that carries. So with this one, when I look at Williams, he's a very, very powerful puncher. He has good takedown defense. But in this matchup, I think that style where he will come in a little wild sometimes, and he'll try and catch you. Sometimes drops his hands a little bit and carries them a little bit low. And I think Bonfim, with his experience in boxing and obviously his jiu-jitsu takedowns, his stuff is there. He's got a well-rounded game, and I think this is going to be a matchup that I'm pretty confident Bonfim is going to get. I just think he's the better fighter here. Not to diss Chaos Williams. I love watching him fight. I love his fights. I do think this one could possibly go long, but maybe second round, maybe into the third round. But I ultimately think there is going to be a finish in this matchup. I think both these guys are very tough, but eventually I think Chaos Williams will probably overthrow on some of his punches, and I think Bonfim will eventually get him to the ground where he could possibly find the back, and I could definitely see him choking him out in this one. But we'll see how Williams' takedown defense is in this, and see if Bonfim can overcome it. If it does end up being a striking match, I still would side with Bonfim in this. I just think he's the cleaner striker. I don't think he takes as much damage. And like I said, I don't like that hands-down fighting style necessarily that Williams sometimes comes in with. I think a good boxer will catch him with something. So I'm going to go Bonfim. I'm going to take it by submission in this one. I think he can get it done. He's very dangerous on the ground, has ability to just jump the back at any moment too, if the moment presents itself. So I'm going to take Bonfim in this matchup. I think he can get it done. Move on to the next. All right, next up we have Rafael Estevam taking on Jose Aguilar. This is going to be a good matchup too. Obviously, Estevam is going to be the bigger fighter out of the two. Aguilar usually is a little bit undersized in his matchups. Estevam, he has a nice wrestling base. The guy is constantly going for takedowns. He's a threat on the ground when he gets you there. Aguilar has shown he has decent takedown defense. He's always looking for guillotine chokes. That's kind of his main success tool, so to speak. He's had quite a few wins by guillotine, so he's always looking for that finish. But I just see, and my pick is going to be Rafael Estevam in this, just for the simple fact, the relentlessness of the takedowns. Jose Aguilar has shown that he is susceptible to takedowns at times. So I think that eventually it's just going to be too much. I think Rafael is going to be able to get the takedowns and control this match. One thing that I will note is that Estevam did have some issues with Charles Johnson in the third round, but he had worked his ass off for 2 rounds previous, getting takedowns, securing takedowns, and keeping him in a position where he won those first 2 rounds. And then it was up to Johnson, and that's to be expected at some point, but he still was able to take Johnson down in the third round. So he was able to fight through the adversity. You were at least able to see that. So I'm gonna stick with Estevam in this. I'm pretty confident that he can get this done. I think it's gonna be a competitive match, but I think overall, in the end, once you look back on it, he's going to have more control in this matchup and possibly get that unanimous decision win. That's kind of what I'm expecting. But overall, I see Estevam getting this one. But we'll move on to the next fight. All right, next up we have Angela Hill taking on Ketlin Souza. This was going to be a good matchup. We already know what we're going to get with Angela Hill coming in with a record 17-14. Doesn't look great, but she's fought some high competition in the UFC. And then we have Souza, who's coming in 15-4. She is on a 2-fight winning streak, gaining a little bit of confidence as she goes. I did hear that she has now got like a therapist coach, mental therapist coach. So trying to up the game as far as mental aspects of it go. We obviously know what we're getting with Hill. She's a striker that right from the get-go, she's going to be setting a high pace, leg kicks, a good combination, everything and in between. Not much on the takedown aspect. It's big on movement. Ketlin Souza, on the other hand, is going to be, she kind of fights like Jessica Andrade in a way. She kind of walks you down, gets you in corners, looks for her shots, picks out her shots a little bit more methodically than Hill does. Hill's going to be throwing constant movement, kicks, punches, jabs, everything, and then movement. Souza, I believe, is going to kind of find her range in the first round. I look for this fight to go long, but I think eventually Souza, she starts to up the pace a little bit more. I think Hill's going to come out pretty active, start off with that high pace that she usually keeps, and then as the fight goes on, I look for Souza to land the more damaging shots. And obviously age, I think, plays a factor here. Angela Hill is the older fighter in this. She's almost 40 years old, I believe. And the thing that I don't like about Hill, which I have mentioned, staying active, but once you get to a certain age, I think your body needs to recuperate. And she has not. This will be her third match in the last 9 months. So with that kind of activity, you're constantly going from fight to camp, and it's got to wear on your body. Souza has been active, but like I said, this is going to be her third fight in about 10 months, 11 months. So it's a little bit further out. And obviously she is the younger fighter. I kind of look for her to keep up a pace like that when you're younger. But as you get older, I think your body starts to deteriorate. And I think this could be the time when we start to realize, yeah, Angela Hill has definitely had her better times. But I look for Souza to get this done. I think this fight will go long. Souza, in a lot of her fights, she has gone to decision. So that's where I'm going with this one. I'm picking Ketlin Souza to win this by decision. On to the next fight. All right, in this next fight, we got a newcomer making their UFC debut. We got Connor Matthews taking on Jose Delgado. Obviously, Delgado is the one making his debut in this one. Delgado is coming in 8-1. Obviously, he did have that first contender fight. He did win that knee to the head there. So Connor Matthews is coming off a loss to Dennis Bazooka. To be quite honest with you, when I look at this fight, I'm very impressed with Delgado. Matthews, I'm still not quite sure that I think he could be one of those fighters that we see. They come in, they're talented, but it's just not clicking in the UFC. I think he is good. He's got a record of 7-2, so he's obviously good. But once you get to the UFC, everything kind of changes. So we'll see how this plays out with Delgado. But I do kind of think that this is one of those matches where you've got Connor Matthews, he's seen one match already, and he did come out on the losing end. So he's going to be motivated to get his first UFC win. But this Jose Delgado is a finisher. He's very aggressive. Aggression can sometimes get you in trouble in these spots, but I think he's going to be the quicker fighter. I think he's going to have a definite aggression edge, and I think he's going to continually walk Matthews down. And when he unloads, Delgado unloads. So I think this is going to be a good matchup for Delgado to come into the UFC and kind of take it by storm, get his first win. I think this is going to be a banger, and I think there's going to be a finish. I'm going to say that Delgado is going to get his knockout in this one. Matthews is going to be tough to put out, but either way, even if it's a submission, either way, Delgado, I say, is going to end up getting this either by knockout or submission. But my pick in this officially is going to be Jose Delgado to get his UFC debut win in his matchup against Connor Matthews. On to the next fight. Moving right along, we got a ground fighter's delight here. Rodolfo Vieira taking on Andre Petroski. The real question is, who's going to get the better of the takedowns in this? Neither of these guys, honestly, are that great at takedowns, but that wrestling is pretty much both of their specialties. Vieira is obviously very skilled on the ground. Once he gets it to the ground, you're always going to be in danger. He is a submission specialist. Petrosky, on the other hand, is more built on the wrestling aspect, control, ground and pound, not so much on the submissions. He does have some submissions, but I kind of trust that he can keep himself safe just due to his wrestling prowess. I don't think he's got a lot of submissions that have gone against him necessarily. He's obviously had some losses and he's been knocked out. But as far as being submitted, I think he's only been submitted one time, and it was further back in his career. One thing I notice about Vieira that always worries me is he doesn't, and maybe it's just me when I look at him, but he doesn't seem to have a dog in him. He doesn't seem to want to fight through a lot of stuff. I don't think that he likes getting hit. And Petrosky, even though, yeah, he's been knocked out before, he does have a little bit of that fight and that dog in him, and definitely wants to go out and put on a performance. Vieira almost seems like sometimes he's going through the motions, just trying to get to the end. And I don't necessarily like that style. I think later on in the rounds is where this is going to get interesting. I think the first two are going to be kind of grappling up against the fence. I don't know that one or the other is necessarily going to get the takedowns that they need. So in the striking department, I'm probably going to give it to Petrosky just for the simple fact that I think he doesn't mind getting hit as much as Vieira. So I think Petrosky is sitting at the underdog right now too. So I do like that fact. And if that is, if we're getting up into that plus 200, plus 175, like I said, I think too many things are telling me that Petrosky could make this very competitive. So look on the other side. I don't trust Vieira. He's the slightly older one out of the two, and I just don't trust that he's going to go in and dog it out if it gets tough. And I think in this one, he's going to have a little bit tougher time. I don't think he's going to be able to get it to the ground as easy. I think he might gas out. And I think Petrosky, this could be a sloppy one in the end, but I think Petrosky can get this done. I think this is going the distance, but I'm going to say Petrosky gets it done by decision. We will move right along into the main card. All right, here's another matchup that I'm really interested to see. We have one of the two brothers, Ishmael Bonfim, taking on Nazim Sajikov. In my opinion, Ishmael is the lesser of the two brothers. He's the lighter in weight. He's still skilled, very skilled, but I don't think that he to me doesn't seem as well-rounded and as comfortable as his brother is. And he definitely isn't. He's not carrying around the type of power. So this matchup to me is one of those that Sajikov is a very, very tough fighter. And it's hard for me to pick against him just because I think he's got some dog in him. We do know that Bonfim, he was beaten by Benoit Saint Denis a couple fights back by rear naked choke, I believe. So right there, you're facing with Saint Denis, you're facing a pretty capable striker there. He definitely has some striking, and if Bonfim wasn't getting knocked out by him, I don't think that Sajikov is going to be the one that is going to get that, because Bonfim kind of comes from that boxing background. He's skilled on the feet. If this stays on the feet, I'll definitely go with Bonfim. I think it's the mixture that I'm sometimes questioning, because I think that Sajikov is going to be a little bit stronger than Bonfim if it comes to that grappling area. So I am going to pick Ismail Bonfim to get this fight done. I think it's going to be a very, very close one. I think if you are going to bet on this fight, you're going to be biting your nails pretty much through the whole thing. I'm not sure he's good enough to get Sajikov out of there, so I think it's probably going to go long. And in my opinion, this could be one of those that you see going to the split decision. I am even though the other fight with his brother Gabriel is a little bit more on the dangerous side, I'm more confident in that fight than I am in this brother getting this done against Sajikov. I think Nazim is tough. He's going to bring the fight, and I'm almost inclined, if the odds keep going towards Bonfim, then I think Nazim is a good pick as an underdog, especially if he's getting up into that minus 200 area or something like that. I would definitely consider it. But I like maybe like the +3.5 or giving him a little advantage because I don't think there's going to be a finish here, and I think it's going to be close all the way through. So split decision, I like. But I am gonna stick with Bonfim in this one. I think he can get it done, but I think it's going to be very, very close. And this is one that watch it if you're betting. But we'll move on to the next. All right, the next fight: Edmund Shabazian taking on Dylan Budka. Look, here's the way I break this down. Shabazian comes in 13-5, Budka 7-4. Okay, when you're just comparing that, Shabazian has literally won more matches than Budka's had. Okay, and to think that a fighter who has fought the likes of Nasruddin Imavov, yes, he lost, but I mean, it was 3 years ago, and he still does have that experience of fighting a high-level fighter like that. He did win against Dalcha Lungiambula. He lost against Anthony Hernandez, which he looked really good in the first round of that fight. He was setting a high pace. He looked good in the wrestling. Anthony Hernandez got really decent takedowns, and he's relentless with them, much like Budka does in his approach to a lot of his fights. We also have a win for Shabazian over AJ Dobson, and we have a loss over Gerald Mearshart. So to me, he's beating who he should be beating, and I think this is a fight that he should win. We've got Budka won his Contender Series match, which went to decision. Then he comes in and loses against Cesar Almeida, which if you're watching that fight back, the takedowns look terrible. It doesn't look on the same level, and Shabazian's going to see takedowns like that from a long ways away. He may get him, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold him down, even if he does get him. And then you have the loss to Andre Petroski. Same thing. You have wrestling skills there. wasn't successful in his game plan, and I think the Shabazian is a better striker. I think that he's got better defense, and I think that the relentless takedowns are only going to go so far. And I think Budka will wear down, leave himself open. So I think Shabazian has full capability to get a late round knockout in this one. So I know that Budka is tough. He's tough. He's hard to put down, but Shabazian has the ability to do it. He punches hard. He definitely has the tools to get this done. I think he's going to get it done in a third round. I think Shabazian is going to get the knockout third round. I just don't see Budka winning. You know, hindsight maybe 2020. I may look back and not like my pick here, but I like Shabazian in this one, so I'm going Shabazian third round knockout. All right, next up, co-main event time. Here we go. Calvin Kattar taking on Yousef Zalal. I will tell you straight off the bat, I am a Yousef Zalal fan. I think he is very well rounded. He had a stint in the UFC previously. It did not pan out for him very well. Didn't do well in that, but now he is coming back and has a chance to redeem himself. And to this point, he has. So far, he's had 3 fights in the UFC on his way back after getting a couple wins outside the UFC. Now he's back with a vengeance, and let me tell you, the submissions are rolling. He's ending it every single time, and I think this is going to be the exact same thing. Calvin Kattar is more of a stand-up fighter. Great stand-up fighter, but to me, he's off 3 straight losses, and he hasn't fought in 9 months, and he just has not looked himself. I don't think he's really looked himself since like the in the Josh Emmett fight. I don't since then it just hasn't gotten better. He seems like he's slowing down. The injuries keep piling up for him. And the method to victory here is going to be the same method to victory that Zalal's been having, which is to get it down to the ground and go for the submission. And Zalal has the ability to do that. So easy breakdown for me. I know the odds are a little bit stretched. Obviously, you don't feel comfortable betting up -400. I do have a bet in with Zalal already that I got a little bit earlier. I didn't get great odds on it, but I trust that he can get this fight done. I may feel comfortable enough to put him in a later parlay as well, but I think he can get this done. So I'm going Yousef Zalal. I think he's going to get the submission second round. That's the way I see this one panning out, but we will move on to the main event. Here we go. Main event of the evening, Jared Cannonier taking on Gregory Rodrigues. Cannonier coming in 17-8 off 2 straight losses to Nasruddin Imavov and Kyle Barajo. Both are going to be contenders for the title, so you can't really fault him at that point. Then we have Gregory Rodrigues, 16-5, coming off 3 straight wins. Dennis Tulilin, Brad Tavares, and Christian Leroy Duncan, this last one by decision. Christian Leroy Duncan's probably the most impressive name out of all 3 of those. I'm not honestly too impressed with his resume of people that he's fought. I'm definitely more impressed with Cannonier's resume that they fought. And I'm not impressed with the fact that Gregory Rodrigues did get knocked out by Bruno Ferreira, who is proving that he's not bad, but shouldn't have been the outcome of that fight in my eyes. And this one, again, this is another one that I think Father Time is going to start creeping up. I know that Cannonier looks great. He's got good cardio. The way he fights, if he can keep it standing, then it's his ball game. He's a good striker. He's solid. He has a nice jab. His movement is good. His footwork is good. His head movement's good. Gregory Rodrigues, on the other hand, I think has more tools. I think he's got the ability to get this to the ground. He's a big dude, equally big, and I think that he's going to have the strength to get this to the ground. We do have an age difference of 8 years here, 40 to 32. Rodrigues is the younger fighter. He's on that tear. Sometimes you can't judge him necessarily by who they've beaten, rather just the fact that they're winning, they're gaining confidence, they're going towards something. Cannonier obviously wants that title shot, but whether or not he's still in the running for it, I don't know. I don't know if this win would get him there. I think this is a fight that'll go long, but I don't see this going the full 5 rounds. I don't see it being completed. I think one of these guys is going to sleep and just with pure aggressiveness and the ability to take it in different spots and get it done, I'm going to side with Gregory Rodrigues. I think he gets it done here. I did tell you that I had a parlay earlier that I had gotten at earlier odds. It does include Gregory Rodrigues and Yousef Zalal in that two-leg parlay. I believe I did get plus odds on it. So I felt pretty strong that these 2 guys are going to get it done. And, I think the Cannonier is going to start hitting a wall at some point. He's in great shape. I'll give the guy all the credit in the world. He's still taking on high competition. He is losing to high competition, and this is the time when Gregory Rodrigues, if he wants it, he's going to have to step up and take it. This is his time to move up the rankings. Cannonier is ranked, so Gregory Rodrigues could take a big step up this weekend, and I think that he's going to come in and get this done. I think it's going to be a submission, honestly, is where I see this going. I think it's going to be later. The only thing that makes me wonder is, and this is Cannonier sweats a lot. There's going to be a lot of sweat going here, so it's going to be hard to clinch stuff up. But I think that Gregory Rodrigues is going to get this done, and we'll see if I'm right. But I think he gets it done by submission, possibly knockout. But I'm going to go submission in this one just because I think that's his easiest path to victory. But that is the breakdown. If you did not, while we were going through it, hit the like and subscribe. Let me know who you're taking in these matches. These should be some really good matches. We're back in the Apex. Some people like it. Some people don't. I personally think it creates some pretty interesting fights because you got the smaller octagon, so possibly more knockouts. We will see how this thing goes. Until next time, this is Brady signing off from Be All In Sports. Keep balling, people. We'll talk to you again later. Peace.